So you are going to be required to do source cards for every single one of your questions and every single one of your answers. So if you aren't paying attention, following along, etc. with this today, you're not going to know how to do the source cards, and it's going to be very frustrating, and you're probably going to do it incorrectly. So we're going to start with databases first. Now, over here on that whiteboard, I have given you citation cheat sheets. I've given you sample citations. I've given you what source cards look like. So if at any time throughout the research process you are confused about something, or you can't remember the order in which the citation goes, which is very, very common. Even I can't remember, what order it goes into. I have that all over there on the boards for you to easily reference. But we're also going to have like a sample source card thing that we're doing here today that we will use to have as reference. So I'm going to have you go ahead and title this source cards, just so that you can keep these notes in your iBook. You can add them to your iBook if you'd like. I know that Miss Wellman, if you have Miss Wellman, I know she does something very similar to this, so this may be kind of a refresher for some of you. But others of you probably haven't used source cards before. Is that correct or incorrect? Yeah, you've never seen anything like this before? Oh, okay. Did Mrs. Hasty and Mrs. Young use stuff like this? Miss Hasty did? Okay. So hopefully this will be a refresher for some of you. Then that's great. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to write down with me what a MLA citation looks like from the databases. So I'm going to have you out to the side here, write MLA. Now, there are other types of citations. There are other ways that, citations are created. MLA is the most commonly used one, and it's the one that the Ray-Pec School District uses. When you get into post-graduation, if you're going to attend a 4-year university or a 2-year university, you may be exposed to APA, which is the American Psychological Association, which is in contrast to the Modern Language Association. They are very similar. They're just different enough to be confusing. But if you know the MLA and you kind of understand that, it's easy to adapt to APA if that's what your professors or teachers or whatever asked you for. You'll be exposed to that if APA is used at wherever you are. Okay. Yeah. There's handbooks and things like that too. And like I said, it's very similar to MLA, so it's just a little bit different. Mainly in capitalization is the main difference, but it's kind of silly. So we're going to go ahead and write down what a citation looks like. So the first thing is I want you to do an indentation. So I'm going to have you put your finger like right here on the line. And then I'm going to have you start, because the citations are always indented. The first line is always indented. So we're going to start with author's name. That is the first thing that will be in a citation, with a period after name. And I don't ask you to create citations, but you will be required to create citations in high school. Now, there are lots of good citation generators. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, no, you have to create all citations yourself. No. There's like EasyBib, there's Citation Machine, there's lots of different ones that you can use. But I do want you to kind of understand the basics of it so that if you look at a citation generated by a website, you know if it's right or wrong. So the first thing that's going to be in a citation is the author's name. The next thing is going to be article title, and article titles will always have quotation marks around them. So you will know that something is an article title if it has quotation marks around it, because that's always going to be how an article title will appear. It won't be in italics, it won't be underlined, it won't be bolded, it will just simply be in quotation marks. So if a citation starts with words that are in quotation marks, there's no author, which is pretty common sometimes. The next thing after article title is publisher and provider. And this is actually going to be in italics. And it's not going to have a period after it. It's just publisher/provider. And since we don't write in italics, sometimes people think that italics and cursive are the same thing. They are not. Italics is a computer-generated font, so I just write out to the side that it's in italics. But it's you'd know it if you saw it. It's like the slanty font. After the publisher provider is the date published. And you are not indenting. If you've made it to the next line, you wouldn't indent the second line. Only the first line is indented. And then there's a period after date published. A lot of times it's going to be written the British way, or the way that most of the world does it, which would be day, month, year, instead of month, day, year. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's why we don't use the metric system, things like that, you know. Just got to be different. And then the next thing will be the database name. And this will also be in italics. So the first thing that's in italics will be the publisher provider. The second thing in italics will be the database name. And then the last two things are always going to be in the exact same in the citation. It's the word web and then the URL. Period. The word web, it just tells the person that's checking your source that you got it from the web and it's a database, so obviously you're getting it from the web. And so the word web will always be in there. And then the URL will be the permalink that we talked about yesterday. And that is an MLA database citation. So, database citations and database source cards are so incredibly easy that you're going to feel like you're doing something wrong because it's so easy. Literally all you're going to do is you're just going to fill it in from the citation that's given to you in the article. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this for just a second. And we're going to, well, maybe. There we go. Does anybody remember how we get on a database? To refresh our memories, what do I do to get on a database? RAPEC website. Okay. Students. Good. 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 Okay. So tomorrow when we do our mock research, we're going to do the question, who was the first person executed during the Salem witch trials? That's the question that we're going to answer. So I'm just going to type in, I'm just going to type in something generic like Salem witch trials. And just find an article. I don't want to do an ebook, but why are these all ebooks? I'm going to find my source over here, and I'm just going to do magazines. Okay, so I'm just going to click on this one. So let's say that this question answers, or this article answers my question. It's exactly what I need. So it's going to automatically come up with the PDF full text. But what you can do, and you can access the citation from over here, but you can't really see what all of these mean. So if you go over here to detailed record, it's going to have what all of those little icons mean. And you're going to scroll down here to cite. Which citation are we looking for? MLA. Very good. So we're just going to scroll down until we get to MLA, and there it is. So I'm going to make this bigger for you so that you can see it. Oh, that's making it smaller. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this is the citation that we're working from. We are going to just fill in everything that's on our little blue source card from this citation. So according to the notes that you just took, who is the author of this periodical magazine? Yeah. Okay, so it's the first two. That's two people. So you can either do this one of two ways. You can write both the way that it is on the database source card, or you can write another one to the side. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go, I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go down here to my author, editor, compiler, translator, and my first one was Lewis, L-U, I don't know, it was L-O-U-I-S. Middle initial was C. Last name was Edelman. Or Adelman. Now, my next person was Brooke Ross. So how I'm going to do it is I'm just going to do it underneath. You could have done it, I mean, really, as long as you have both on there, it doesn't really matter. You could have put Brooke up here with it and did a slash. It doesn't really matter. We're not building a rocket here. Now, according to my notes, what's the next thing that's going to come in the citation? Article title. Very good. So let's go back to our thing here. So it's going to always be in quotation marks. So this is my article title. So I'm just going to copy that over with my quotation marks, of course. And it's just called the Salem Witch Trials. Just like that. Okay, according to your notes, what's the next thing that's going to be? Publisher provider. So you're going to come down here to publisher provider on your database source card. We're going to go back to our citation. So we have Junior Scholastic. So that's look how, do you see how that's in italics? Okay. So that's going to be our publisher provider. So Junior Scholastic. No. Technically you can't write in italics. I mean, you could try, but it's not going to be the same as it would be. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but it's not that serious. Okay, according to my notes, what's the next thing? Date published. So let's go back over here. So this was published 8/9 December 2012. So if you go down to on your source card, you're going to go to where it says electronically published. So the day was 8/9, which I've honestly never seen before. And then the month of December. The 8th and the 9th, I don't really know. Like I said, I've never seen that before. So I don't know, maybe it was like updated on the 9th, I don't know. Okay. Then our last thing that we're looking for is the database. Does anybody see the database? EBSCOhost. Now, a lot of times yours is going to be EBSCOhost, but not always. Don't just say, oh, I think it's going to be EBSCOhost because that's the database that I'm on. Not always. It might pull from a different database. So the database is EBSCOhost. It is very helpful. Very, very helpful. And what do I do for date access? Today's date, yeah. So you'll do whatever day it is that you've accessed that. So 5 December 2019. And you have a complete source card. Now, for databases, you may not always have all of the information. But when I'm grading your research project, I'm going to be looking for certain things on your database source card because certain things will always be in a database citation. So one thing that I'm always going to be looking for is the article title. We'll always have an article title. It will always have a database name. That's a very odd asterisk. It will always have a publisher provider. And it will always have a date accessed. It may not have a date published. It may not have a day. It will probably have a month and year, but it may not have a day. And it may not have an author. Yeah. I've never, like I said, seen this before. Maybe. All right. Go ahead and put this one to the side and get out your salmon colored one here. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Websites are a lot trickier because it's not required to be, this information isn't required to be on a source. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So, I'm going to minimize that. So I'm going to get off of these and I'm going to go to, and I'm just going to do something similar. Salem Witch Trials. Okay, I'm going to use this one because this is one that you're going to probably use in your project, history.com. It's a pretty common one that people use. So the first thing that I need to do, let me back up. You are allowed to put this into a citation generator and put it out there. You're allowed to create one. I would caution you against it because some of the ones that are used like citationmachine.net and EasyBib, they are going to tell you that there's not enough information when you can clearly see that there is. So I'm going to caution you against it, but you can if you want to. Yeah. And like I said, those will be okay sometimes. Some are better than others. And I think that it also has something to do with the Wi-Fi at school, I think blocking some things because they have a lot of ads with them. But if you have one that's good, you can use it. Fine by me. So let's say, for example, that this is what I want. I found my answer to my question here on this website. This is the one that I want to cite. So the first thing I need to do, according to my website source card, is I need to put the URL. I don't know about you, but I don't really want to write all of this up here at the top. So what I use something called bit.ly. It's bit.ly. And you can put the long URL in there, and it will shorten it for you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy it. Okay, I have to make this smaller. I'm going to paste my long URL, which actually isn't that long. And then here is the link that I'm going to write down. So I'm going to have you write that down for web address URL on the salmon colored card. It's bit.ly/2 capital P little b z y 6C.
Pardon the interruption. General Simmons, please report to the office.
Okay. Checked off the list. So now let's go back and we need to find the article title. So what do you think is the article title? There you go. What am I always going to put around the article title? Quotation marks. Very good. So just like on my database, it's called Salem Witch Trials. Just like that. do you see any authors potentially? History.com editors, yeah. And so there was a lot of confusion when I did this with my other classes, like, well, do I put History.com in the first name and the editors in the last name? We're not building a rocket here. Just write it down, okay? Doesn't matter. Just do History.com editors on the author part. Yeah, it'll list all the editors, but typically it's a really long list, so I'm okay with this for this project. If you were doing a official bibliography, then you would want to go and get all of the editors if they're listed. But number one, they're not always going to be listed, and number two, it's just a long list for just this little source card. So that's why I'm okay with editors for this one. If we were turning it into a project, a paper, then I would have you find who the editors are and all that. But it can be kind of extensive. All right, if I asked you, what's the title of this website? History.com. A lot of times it's going to just be the first part of the URL. Not always, but a lot of times it will be. So for website title, it's just history.com. Now, in order to find our publisher provider, we are going to scroll down to the bottom, and we're going to look for the copyright. So it's going to be all the way at the bottom. Do you see a copyright symbol? Yeah. Right here. This is what you're looking for. And you're looking for after the copyright symbol. You don't need the date, but you do need this part right here of who the publisher is. So A&E Television Networks, LLC is going to be your publisher provider. Okay, electronically published. Let's go back to this. Go back up to the top. Oh my goodness, ads. There we go. Do you see a date that this was electronically published? Okay, so it says updated October 8th, 2019, but the original is November 4th, 2011. Which one do you think that we should do? Very good. November 4th, 2011. That's the day it was electronically published. So we have November 4th. November 2011. Date access, super easy. Today's date. Now, for a source card database for for a source card for websites, there are a few that you have to have. Websites will always have a web URL. They will always have a website title. And they will always have a date accessed. Those three are non-negotiables. You have to have them. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you use your paper here, your piece of notebook paper, as a like a keeping place, I guess, for your notes. So I'm going to have you I'll put out the staplers, there's glue sticks and tape, and so you can tape these down so that you have one central location to find your notes on source cards.